Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry my videos are getting fewer and fewer and far between at the moment. I do still get a lot of messages coming through, but I've, the feeling from my guides is more of a secretive energy, like more of a behind closed doors energy, a need to know basis energy, which I feel like this message is part of the reading in some sort of way, because I think this is going to come back up again. I'm just going to go into it because I've been getting quite a lot of messages and there's certain like themes that keep coming through. So I'm just going to blur everything out that I've been getting, and people can take what applies to them and leave anything that doesn't. Generally speaking, I've had this character coming through. So I've been sensing a male energy that feels like they went off the rails a little bit in some sort of way. Maybe they've been indulging in some more negative behaviors. Maybe this might be sleeping around a little bit, or maybe dabbling in certain substances. It feels a little bit like they had parts of themselves that they weren't quite ready to deal with, and when confronted with a choice, they made the wrong choice, almost like a self-sabotage, almost like I'm not worthy of making the right choice, so I'm going to make the wrong choice, and just absolutely like veer off course is the way it came through. This could be somebody who is a father, or who this could also be somebody's father figure. I have got the father gate coming through here, a bold step forward. So I definitely feel like there's something about fathers involved. Again, there could be something about somebody's behavior, and when they kind of stop and think about it and go back to the root cause, it could be because of someone's like father or a father figure, like the way that they acted has maybe caused certain thought patterns or certain behaviors that like the son is following, something like this. Fathers definitely seem to be a common theme, especially with what I'm getting this morning. There could be something specifically about Bill Gates coming through, or the Gates Foundation in some sort of way. One of my previous readings that I did, I pulled the card Gate, and now the Father Gate is here, and I just keep getting Bill Gates. I think I know how to tie this into this specific reading. Yeah, I'll talk about this now. So I had a vision sort of early this morning. When I'm kind of in that in between awake and sleep state, and when I'm kind of meditating, I go on these kind of like vision quests. So like I go to different places, and then sometimes it's like I start to get messages coming through in that state. So the vision will kind of like turn into more of a dream, right? It'll go from something that I'm controlling to something that I'm receiving. And so one of the places that I go to is this cave. It's like a crystal cavern cave. I won't go into that too much, but it started making me think about my own dad. And my own dad, sort of in the 70s, 80s, was really into cave diving. So he'd go spelunking with his friends. He had a group of people that he used to like going kind of exploring caves, and he'd be all on like carabiners and ropes and things, and they'd squeeze through these tight spaces, and sometimes the caves were full of water, and he'd go exploring. So when I was growing up, he was really into kind of like different types of rocks and gems and things like this. And so in my vision, it's like my dad gave me mainly a piece of blue john. Now, if you don't know what blue john is, it's a very, very, very rare type of fluorite that can only be found in two specific mines in England. So it's the rarest mineral in England. And because it's very rare and there's a limited supply, like you can't get more of it. Once it's all been mined, it's all been mined, right? So, I mean, you could probably like you can create crystals now, right? You can kind of artificially create crystals in these big machines, but naturally occurring blue john, extremely rare. Like it's a limited resource, and so that makes it very valuable. And so when I was growing up as well, my dad loved blue john, so that's why I know about it. But he also had some fool's gold. Fool's gold, it looks like gold, but it's not as valuable. It's not real gold. I think it has bits of real gold in it, but it's not gold. So it used to trick people a lot when they were mining for gold. They'd find fool's gold and be like, yay, I've got loads of gold. And then he'd be like, it's actually not worth anything. And so the message that I was getting when in my vision, my dad handed me these two things, it was comparing them, right? And so the message was coming through, and this can apply to so many different people. And this is where I think you, the person watching this, can take something from this reading. The message was about value being tied to rarity. So I've been ranting quite a lot recently about how capitalism sells like a certain type of beauty or a certain aesthetic that becomes very commonplace, right? Everybody looks the same. Everybody has like the sad beige homes. It's kind of like there's very little diversity, there's very little choice because everything is getting very, very standardized, which takes the individualism and the uniqueness out of life and society. Now, there's good things and bad things to that. There's a good thing in terms of conformity. If everybody, think about like school uniforms, like schools say, if everybody's wearing the same school uniform, it's this like great leveler, right? There's no competition, nobody's better than anyone else, everybody is wearing the same thing. So it can be good in some sort of way. It can create like the feeling of belonging to something because you're all dressed in the same uniform, but it also does take away individualism, and it does actually devalue people. I think I was ranting about this in one of my previous readings. I remember something coming through about plastic surgery getting more popular in the Middle East. Anyway, so the message I was getting with the Blue John anyway was is not as well known as diamonds, right? If you think about gold or diamonds, very, very well known, very popular. And yeah, they are valuable. People trade in gold, diamonds have a purpose. They're useful in lasers and things like this. But a lot of the time, the value of these things is inflated. And then you get these rarer minerals like Blue John. And it's kind of like, if you don't know about Blue John, like, it's not as popular, not as many people are aware of it, but the people who do know, the kind of specialists, they know the value of it. And so there was something coming through about being more like Blue John, right? Finding the people who value you for your unique properties, seeing how being different and rare actually increases your value. Now, this was definitely coming through with a little bit of a message about perhaps if somebody is not neurotypical, or perhaps you just think a very different way to other people. There's definitely something coming through about the way people think, because almost as soon as I finished this vision, and I kind of went on social media, I got a TikTok from, I don't know if everybody knows, like she's called something like Rachel the neurobiologist, and she was talking about this book that she was reading about intelligence versus kind of like IQ, which is tied to creativity, thinking outside the box, finding creative solutions, and kind of like learned education, which is more about memorizing facts, right? And it's more in the box thinking. And so I think as a society, we place a lot of value on a more formulaic, standardized education, but this actually represses more critical thinking skills in some cases and more creative thinking skills. This kind of, especially when you have, like in the UK, the government keep investing in things that are more like practical skills or logic based, like the sciences and maths and physics and things like this, and they don't fund the arts as much, right? The more creative fields like music, arts, drama, stage, that's not as valued. It's not seen as something that is as valuable, which I think is incredibly sad, because to me the humanities and the arts are what make us human, right? And I think we were also seeing this with AI, because AI can be very good at certain things, and computers they're very good at kind of like doing maths. If you think about a calculator, right, it does maths very quickly for us. AI can create some very beautiful images. It's less good at really finding the soul in what it's creating. A lot of the things that, generative AI produce are just regurgitated art that someone else has created, and they don't have that heart and soul to it. So yeah, you can get a very beautiful piece, but a lot of the time, the more you engage with it, the more shallow it starts to feel, especially if you've ever looked at kind of how AI does creative writing. It's not very good at finding the nuance. It's not very good at kind of, if you go to Chat GPT, it's very good at kind of like doing a good speech, right? It can be good in the moment. It can like really write persuasively. It can write interestingly. It can write creatively. It can do a really convincing act of appearing human. But again, it's the more you engage with it, the more you see that it's not really thinking. It misses some of the human subtleties, the human nuance, the actual creative writers or artists can create. So I don't want to get into a full discussion about generative AI, but I want to really focus on the point that I'm trying to make about if you are the sort of person who thinks out of the box and you think very creatively and you're a bit quirky, you're a bit different, there is actually value to that because it's not something that can be replaced currently with AI systems and things like this. I was actually speaking to a college teacher, and she was talking about how one of the best paid jobs at the moment is actually teaching AI how to speak. It's like language, linguistics is one of the biggest paid skills at the moment because yeah, it's something that's needed. So, and you wouldn't think that, right? You'd think it'd be like the coders and things like this, but they're the ones who are getting the jobs replaced. So yeah, I don't know. I'm waffling a little bit now, but there's definitely something coming through as well about and I talk about this quite often in my readings because it's something that I'm experiencing. My children are currently being diagnosed for ADHD and autism, which means I probably also have one or both of those things. And how if you are not neurotypical, and this doesn't even mean if you have a disability, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I'm neurotypical, but I also feel like I don't quite fit in. I feel like I don't think the same as other people, you know? I had trouble at school, that kind of thing. So I think, if you're not a mainstream thinker or you don't behave in a mainstream way, going to a mainstream school and this standardized school system can be very, very difficult. It's difficult for a lot of children for a lot of reasons. And there's also that study that talks about how I feel like it was an Oxford study. Did I talk about this in my last reading? I don't know why it keeps coming back up, but I swear it was Oxford, and they did a study looking at genius, like and how they quantified genius was this creative thinking, right? Looking at a problem and being able to find a creative way of solving it. That's genius, right? Because it's innovative. If you do the same thing all the time, again and again and again, and you get the same answer, that starts to become stupid, right? So they found that young children did qualify as having that spark of genius because they would think about things in such a unique way. And they found that as they followed all these children throughout their education career and they came out through the other end, a lot of them, like the level of genius had declined. So yes, they were more intelligent, they were more knowledgeable, and there's value to that. I'm not saying there's no value to that. Obviously, the education system is really important. I think it's good to know history. It's good to know, it's good to learn certain things, certain skills. But because it was very standardized and repetitive and based on regurgitating facts a lot of the time, that in the forcing people into that square box, actually their brains stopped thinking so creatively because that wasn't valued in that system. And so where am I going with this? So back to Bill Gates, the Father Gate. Now, whatever you think of him, right, whether you think he's a good person or a bad person, some people believe him to be very, very evil. I was just reading how he's given away something like, what, £50 billion he's given away recently, and he's trying to give away all his wealth before he dies. I don't know. I'm not sure about that guy. You know, the jury's out on Bill Gates. What I was trying to get to, my point I was trying to make, is that he has dyslexia. And if you look at entrepreneurs, a lot of the time entrepreneurs have dyslexia or they're not neurotypical. And the reason why they can get very, very, very successful is because they have the habit of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And you only need one of those things to be successful. So, you know, to have, you know, my dad had dyslexia. This is why I'm talking about fathers quite a lot. And he ran his own business and he did quite well in life. And so and he had so many like crazy ideas. He was always jumping from one hobby to another hobby, one special interest to another special interest. But you only need one of those special interests to stick and to be very successful, to be successful. And so in Bill Gates's case, obviously he is one of the epitomes of the examples of success in terms of business and money making. Again, how you define success is a whole different conversation. So I do feel like we could be talking about this man that I'm picking up on. He could be somebody who's not neurotypical. He could specifically have something like dyslexia, could be a little bit of an entrepreneur, could bounce from one thing to the next quite often, could find it quite hard to settle down and be in one spot, which could be why, again, it's not ADHD as well. And I'm not saying that everybody who has dyslexia or ADHD, you know, is necessarily sleeping around or going on the wrong path. I don't want to feed that narrative, because it's absolutely not the case. But I'm talking about a specific energy that's coming through, a specific storyline that I'm picking up on, where, again, it could be somebody who's they're not a very settled person, right? They get a bit stir crazy if they're in one spot for too long. And so again, that kind of like self-destruct mechanism where it's like things have got too serious, things have got to maybe a bit non-committal, things have got a bit too serious, things have got a bit too, there's too much pressure, too many responsibilities, I'm overwhelmed, I'm pressing the eject button, and, you know, I'm sabotaging my whole situation. We could be dealing with somebody who has that kind of behavior. Again, not making excuses for anybody, but we'll see. We've also got the Dragon Hood, the Seer, and the Heart of the Sky coming through. And the Dream Thief. Okay. What else was I picking up on? This person, I'm getting a storyline through that this person could have really fucked up with a female in some sort of way. Again, this could be their partner, maybe they betrayed them. I'm getting this kind of, I got this Ten of Swords backstabbing energy for quite a long time, and there's a huge amount of guilt around that. So again, it could be that somebody stepped out of a relationship, they feel incredibly guilty, they're aware that they fucked up, it feels like they're at the point where they're starting to take a bit of more ownership, right? They're starting to see a bit more clearly, where I think when they were in the throes of this, they were going off ego, perhaps. The woman seems fine. The woman seems good. You know the song Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac? Is it Fleetwood Mac? Yeah. Hang on, I've got the notes here. Time cast a spell on you and you won't forget me. You'll never get away from the sound of the woman who loves you. So this is going to be like, it's come through in this reading here. But there's this feeling of kind of like, oh, what's that other song as well? Like, he walked into the party like he was walking out to a yard. I'm getting like these old 70s songs. So again, this could definitely be somebody's parents. For example, my parents, my dad did unfortunately step out on my mum. I think he felt very guilty about that. I think they were good, you know, by the time they both passed away. I think they were both very, very, they'd resolved a lot of the issues that they'd had when, you know, obviously that happened. But again, history repeats itself, and, you know, a story that one person can have can be a story that 1,000 people have. So I think I'm being given this example because it's something that I need to communicate about, something that's happening for maybe one or more of the people who watch my videos. Sorry, I'm just going to check what that was. So Yeah, there's definitely a story of this. And again, it doesn't have to be a relationship. I'm definitely getting through like a business relationship here. It could be people who work together. Maybe there was no romance, but I mean, I'll get to the cards in a minute. I'll get deeper into that story in a moment. I've definitely been getting something as well about. Now I'm getting love on a mountaintop. Love on a mountaintop, so high that we won't ever stop. Making love on a mountain. Somebody could have been on vacation to a mountain. Could have been maybe, it could be lots of different people and it could be coming through in lots of different ways, but this mountain energy is coming through so strongly, like repeatedly. Every time I pull cards, there's mountains everywhere. Not in this reading. Well, yeah, in this reading. But it was coming through this feeling of either being a metaphor for seeing things from a higher perspective, right? Seeing things from, you know, rather than seeing things from the moment that you're living in, right? A knee-jerk response, a reactive response, this is what I'm doing right now, to having more of an overview of long-term behavior patterns in terms of generational, I'm the way I am because this is what I was exposed to as a child. This is what I saw my parents doing. This is what I saw my grandparents doing. This is the culture I grew up in. Do I want to continue this? Or do I want to pass this on to my own children? Or do I want to change the narrative? Because the only person who can change the future is me in this moment. And that's why the decisions I make are so important. It's that kind of thing. There could also be something where somebody's had some kind of epiphany. It does feel like a vacation energy, like somebody has maybe taken a trip to Nepal and gone up to a mountain there and had a spiritual experience. Maybe somebody's gone up a mountain and taken some ayahuasca or something and, tripped out a little bit. Maybe somebody's gone to a mountain in a Nordic country and they've seen the Northern Lights. Maybe it just feels like somebody's gone either metaphorically high or literally high and had some kind of spiritual experience in this or transformative experience where maybe it's a detox, maybe somebody, because that is actually coming through. I've had Amy Winehouse rehab, so maybe somebody's gone away and kind of that process of being out of a certain environment and in a different environment has given them a bit of time and space to think, a little bit of time to detox, to behave differently, because a lot of the time bad behavior is environmental. You can have somebody who's a drug addict and if you keep putting them in the same friendship group, or an alcoholic, right, if you keep putting them in the same situations in the same friendship group, they're going to find it very hard to break those behaviors. But if you put them in a country where they don't drink alcohol, where alcohol drinking is like shunned, right? And people have different. So let me give you examples. So say, for example, you've got somebody who has an alcohol problem and they're in the UK and the work culture is, we're going out for a pint after work, do you want to come? And you've got this drinking culture and it's like your social life is tied around that drinking culture. But let's say you go and you work somewhere like in the Middle East, right, where alcohol, it's haram. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry to if anyone's watching and you're like, what are you talking about, you stupid white woman? I'm so sorry. I'm trying. But yeah, say you go to a country where, drinking is forbidden. Like, it's not part of the culture at all. It's disapproved of. But, maybe people have different pursuits. Maybe people have, they go to the gym or, maybe they have barbecues. I don't know, right? Like it's just a different workplace environment or a different culture. And suddenly those behaviors that were enabled in one situation are suddenly disapproved of in another. And so this can be helpful in terms of, if somebody has bad behavior patterns, maybe not quite an addiction, but definitely a trap that they keep falling into, because it's situational. I think a change could be good in that way. Sorry, my phone keeps pinging. I'm just going to keep checking. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm going to mention this because it could be part of the reading. One of my children, who's at college, has been finding a specific teacher quite difficult. Definitely the feeling that the values are not necessarily aligned, right? They're coming at life from two different angles. But I feel like they're finding a bit of a middle ground now. Like they're finding the similarities. So this sent me an awkward picture apparently. Let me have a quick look at what this is. not sent it yet. Give them a minute. So, yeah, sorry, I get very easily distracted. Again, probably got ADHD, but it's part of. I like it. I like the way my brain works. I'm definitely very scatterbrained, but if you've been on my channel for a while, you've heard me describe it as being like where somebody has an idea, right? And I think most people, like, if this is the idea, like, and this is the starting point and this is the destination, it's kind of like, I want you to think about this. Most people's brains go like that, right? Most people's brains go, the idea goes from one place to the other quite directly. My brain is like, if you've ever played like ping pong machines, not ping pong, pinball machines. You put it's like the idea goes in the pinball machine, and I load it up and I let it go, and suddenly it's like ping, 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 ping. It's like hitting all these random things, because my brain it's not linear. It's like a spider web, and so I have one thought and I have 10 thoughts. But the good thing about that is that I hit on things that other people don't think of. I have ideas that other people don't think of. I have those creative solutions. And so for me, I love my weird scatty brain, because it's to me, my brain is interesting, it's exciting, it's novel. And I quite like that I quite like that I have a lot of thoughts. I quite like that I have a chatty brain. It's entertaining to me. Not as entertaining to the general population, otherwise my videos would do better. I think more frustrating to the people around me. I just paused again to sort out to just say that I was doing a reading, and they're still sending me messages. And you wonder why I'm so easily distracted. Okay, so where was I going next? So I think that is pretty much catching up with a lot of the stuff that's been coming through. I have this feeling of a secret surfacing, or a deep feeling or a realization surfacing. My whale card came through, which always talks about deep emotions or deep secrets coming up for air, right? There's something that is being revealed, or it's something really, really, really deep as well. It's something that has been hidden, or something important. Maybe somebody has to say something important that they've kept inside for a long time. Going to the underlying on the floor down here, is this somebody's making somebody an offer, the king with the ring. I'm going to come back to this here, but it definitely feels like they're realizing something and they're coming forward and gifting someone something. It could be the gift of the truth. It could be an opportunity. It could be, the ring, it could be a proposal, but I'm not feeling that strongly. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up in that way. It just kind of feels like, I'll come back to this in the reading here, because you've got, look, realization, and then there's this king and he's offering something. So this is going to come back here. But then the deep sea astronaut. So again, this feeling of like, water symbolizes emotions to me. So the deep sea is like deep, unfamiliar, dark emotional depths. And so the deep sea astronaut, who would be like a diver, right? They're going to this unfamiliar territory, right? They're brave enough to do that deep dive and make a discovery. So this feeling again of like something coming up, something surfacing. Underneath the king and the ring is the heart card. So again, it feels very like this is something that's really meaningful for this person. So again, if somebody's coming forward to you, and maybe you've got a father who's like been quite a difficult father, right? Maybe you have an estranged relationship with somebody. Maybe somebody has stabbed you in the back and betrayed you. I'm not telling you how to respond to that person if they come towards you. I'm not telling you to trust them necessarily. They could be a Leo as well. I've got a lot of Leo energy coming through. I've got the Strength card, the King of Fire, and literally the Lion card, the Fire card here as well. Yeah, I do think that whatever they're coming forward with, whatever they're saying, I do think it is from the heart. I think they genuinely have reflected on their behavior. And I think if they say that you mean a lot to them, they mean it. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. I'm not saying that you just kind of forgive and forget every kind of bad behavior, especially if they are still prone to the trap of falling into the bad behavior. sorry, something was coming through and I was just deciding if I was going to say it or not. Somebody could have some kind of sexually transmitted disease that is not for everybody. Um, but it is a consequence if somebody is perhaps living in a bit of a wild way and not necessarily taking responsibility for the proper precautions. Again, I don't want to scare anyone. I don't want to say that's everybody, but it could be somebody's situation. There is something really, really good. I don't know what this is. And again, I don't know if it's tied to this exact situation or if this is something else, but we've got some really, really strong energies here. So the unicorn, the cosmic egg, and the dragon, you can see these are all like the symbol on them. They're kind of like MasterCards. Maybe there's something about MasterCard, you know, yeah, I was getting a lot of stuff about wealth as well. Like I say, it's kind of like Bill Gates turning up and being like, hey, I need a creative thinker like you. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but a lot of the time the messages come through really over the top and then when they play out they're normally a lot more subtle, and I think it's just a way of my guides making me understand the situation. It's kind of like if they make it big and showy, they know I'm going to pay attention. It's like, hey, over here, squirrel brain. So yeah, it could be that. It could be because the Leo energy, the king of fire, they are a showy person. They like to really make a big impact, right? They are the showman energy. And I'm not saying everybody who's a Leo is a big show off and like, you know, center of attention, but there could be this aspect of this quality coming through with this person. It's kind of like it's kind of, especially if they know they really did fuck up, right? They really did like stab you in the back and, you know, they kept on stabbing. It's kind of like they really hurt someone and now they're seeing the value in that person and they understand that they did wrong. It's kind of like they could come in really magnanimously. This could be the sort of thing as well, like, you know, if you're a single parent and maybe you're the parent who has the children all week, you know, you get them to school on time, you make sure they're fed, you do all the responsibilities, and then you have the fun parent who comes on like at the weekend and takes them to, like, my dad used to come and take me swimming at the weekend, that kind of thing, right? But it was my mum who had to get me up and get me to school, which was not an easy task because I did not like getting up and getting to school. I am not a morning person. But yeah, it could be like, you know, that person shows up and they come in with like loads of gifts and they're like, hey, I'm going to take you to Disneyland. It's like, yeah, you know, pouring like love bombing, basically. Too much love, too much attention, like wishes fulfilled as well. But it does feel like it's coming from a genuine place. I just think this person might not be the best person with, like, they're not the King of Pentacles, right? The King of Pentacles is the person who shows up day after day after day. They go to work they go to work on time. They water the garden. They put food on the table. They repair the roof when the roof is broke. Like, King of Pentacles shows up and like they are solid and they're dependable. King of Fire is like fun times. Like, you know, you have a great time with them, but, you know, next minute they're off and they're off on another adventure, right? They've been distracted. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. They are the way they are, okay? So again, I'm thinking maybe somebody who, you know, they've got something going on, maybe they have something like ADHD, or maybe they, again, not making excuses and not saying everybody with ADHD is like that, but there could be like a cause, right? There could be a reason why this person shows up for a fun time and then disappears, right? It could be something again about like their childhood, maybe the environment that they grew up in, you know, the way that they were shown love, you know, like the sort of people who they're very emotionally cold and, you know, standoffish. They don't really pay attention to the children, but, you know, they bought a kid a car for Christmas, or, you know, they pay for the kid to have equestrian horse riding lessons. You know, like, have you ever seen, there's a TikTok where it's like a woman and she's like a PA to really, really, really rich people. And so she has these conversations with like it's kind of like Elon Musk and his daughter. And I'm not saying it's literally them. Again, if I mention somebody like Bill Gates or Elon Musk, I'm not making any claims about who they are as people. I don't know them. I only know what I read on the internet. I'm just giving you kind of like stereotypes or examples of like how these messages are coming through to me. I'm not literally talking about them for, disclaimer reasons. But if you imagine you're the PA of somebody like Elon Musk and his, one of his children, and maybe they don't like each other very much, and maybe they don't want to spend Thanksgiving with each other. So the PA has to kind of like, these are the TikToks that I've been seeing. Like the PA has to sit there and be like, okay, I'll ring the daughter and ask her to come to Thanksgiving. And so she rings the daughter, and the daughter's like, I'll come to Thanksgiving if he buys me a sports car. And she's like, okay. And she rings him back and she's like, she'll come if you get her a sports car. And he's like, okay. But she has to show up to every meal and she has to be nice to a stepmom. And so she rings back and says, right, okay, he agreed to the sports car. These are the deals. And she's like, okay, but if he wants me to be involved, he's also going to have to pay for my holiday to wherever. And so, like you can have a relationship where financially the person shows up, but there's no love, there's no warmth. So what I'm trying to say is there's different ways of parenting. There's different relationships in life. It's not necessarily fair to compare one to the other. If you're very lucky, you get an all-rounder. You get the empress or the emperor who is good at everything. If you're unlucky, or not even unlucky, I think if you have a parent who shows up in any way, you're fucking lucky, because there's a lot of people who don't have that. But it can be difficult, right? People have good elements and bad elements, and the bad elements can be particularly difficult. And I'm not saying anyone needs to forgive and forget anything. But people, again, I studied humanities, so people are the way they are for a reason, right? And I think a lot of the time, if you don't know why somebody's treating you a certain way, you can take it very personally and you can feel like a victim, which is not healthy for the person who feels that way, because it's kind of like they've given the power away. But if you look at a person and you say, it's not my fault the way they are. It's not my fault they treat me like something that can, use and discard. That's their behavior, that's their problems. And the reason why they act like that is because of their childhood or this. And it's not about making excuses, it's about understanding. Because when you understand behavior, you can really take a step back and it becomes not personal. It doesn't hurt as much. And you can really be like, it's not my fault they are the way they are, which I think is part of the healing process. Anyway, coming back to the cards, unicorn, cosmic egg, and dragon. So something is being birthed 100%. Something is, I'm hearing exploding, but I don't think that's the right word. Something is being revealed, something is surfacing, something's coming up for air, something's being revealed, and it feels like a wish fulfilled, and it feels like something that would never happen, because the cosmic egg is kind of like something being birthed, and it's like the universe is bringing this in. The unicorn is something that's very rare, and again, I was talking about Blue John, right? It's kind of like somebody who has a very rare, unique gift, somebody who is an absolute individual and almost too good to be true. Like, you wouldn't believe that a unicorn could really be there, but it's there, is the message of the unicorn card. So something that feels unbelievable, something that feels out of this world, something that feels like you never thought this would happen. But it does come with the dragon attached. The dragon, for me, is a very ancient energy. It can talk about ancestral energy. It's very powerful. It's not necessarily good or bad. You do want the dragon on your side. Dragon energy for me is like very protective. I want to say if the dragon sees your value, that is a very, very good thing. You don't want to be on the wrong side of the dragon, basically. Again, not necessarily good or bad. What else do we have? Again, this feeling of like, I'm just going to cover her up slightly. This feeling of something surfacing, something being revealed, something coming out from the depths. A decision. Yeah, I think that's it for the underlying. Okay, what is my battery like on this? Just give me a sec. Okay, I was just plugging my my phone in because my battery was getting really low. Again, anything that happens in a reading is part of the reading. Maybe somebody is getting a lot of messages. Maybe they're worried the battery's going to run out. Maybe they're not near a charger. all these things could be part of the reading itself. As I was kind of doing that, I was getting a message. It felt like guidance of how somebody could react to this person if they wanted to improve a relationship. And the way that I was seeing the person reacting to this person, it feels like they're coming in with something really big, right? It's like they've been absent for a while, you don't know where they've been up to no good perhaps, or you suspect that they have been, they betrayed you in some sort of way. I kind of feel like you don't know that they betrayed you, so they're coming in like with a big apology. It's like, hey, I fucked up, but I want to make it right, and I want to make it right in a really big way. The response that I'm seeing, whether this is how you choose to respond or not, is that I'm seeing this person saying to this person who's showing up in a big way, like, I appreciate the effort. Like, I understand that this is who you are. I understand that this is how you're trying to say sorry. This is how you know how to show up, right? What I need from you is this. I understand that you might not be in a position where you feel able to give me these things, but I still appreciate the effort that you're making, is the way that I'm seeing that conversation happening. So it's kind of like appreciate them for trying, appreciate the intention. You can state what you need in a way that's not accusatory, and maybe just be like, I understand if you can't show up for me like that right now, but that's my needs in this situation. I don't know where that relationship goes from there. And again, this is not literal advice. You, as the person watching this, need to use your own brain and your knowledge of your own situation. I'm just kind of giving you food for thought and holding up a mirror, right? It's kind of like watching a TV show where there's a similar plot line happening to something that might be happening in your life. You know, you're not going to reenact what happens in that TV show, right? You're going to be like, how does that apply to my life? Is this an appropriate way for me to react? So literally, I'm just telling stories, and if they fit, they fit. If they don't, they don't. So let's go to the reading on the table. So I've got a secret surfacing or hatching. It was coming through with the word hatching, a secret hatching. Again, I do wonder if there's like some kind of pregnancy involved here. I'm not necessarily getting it very strongly. Although we do have this, like, the cave and the egg. I wonder if there's something going on about surrogacy, especially with the unicorn coming through. It's almost like, I know I betrayed you, but can you do me this massive favor? And I will give you millions. I don't know. It's kind of like, I know you need money. I need a baby. Let's make this work, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a good situation, but that feels a little bit, possibly a bit far-fetched, but at the same time, you know, different things work for different people. So I'm not sure. Anyway, could be something as well about adoption. You know, say somebody who's lost a child and they're like, I need I miss having a child in my life. I don't know, in a nice way, not a creepy way. And then, you know, a child who is perhaps in the adoption system, and they're like, I really need a father figure. You know, there's things that I can do for myself, but, you know, there's also things that, you know, we have parents in our lives for a reason. So it's kind of like, maybe I need financial advice. Like, my dad was very good at giving me kind of like practical advice. You know, maybe I need somebody who can help me to buy a car. I don't know what to do if I'm buying a car. Maybe I need somebody who, you know, and again, if it's like a more of a maternal role, not to kind of stereotype with gender there, you know, be who you want to be. But, you know, maybe I need somebody who can teach me how to cook, right? And so, although, you know, my dad was a great cook as well, it's coming through as a very dad reading. I don't know why. So again, it's kind of like, maybe this person doesn't have anyone to, you know, if they don't have any children, maybe it's like, I want somebody who I can pass my business onto, my inheritance onto. So I don't know what this is. It could be a number of different things. Going back to my notes, the Mountain Everest shortcut teleport. Something was coming through about, because the mountain to me, it's the first card that came through in my own reading, like from my own deck when I started this spread. Even though I've been getting the mountain consistently, like every time I pull cards, the mountain's there. The mountain to me in my own deck is talking about a difficult task, right? Something that feels momentous, something that feels very difficult. Imagine you were climbing Everest, right? You're going to have to be really prepared. You're going to probably have to train. It's going to be very arduous, but with enough determination and with the right equipment and the right advice and the right people around you, you know, you can make it to the top, but it's a difficult journey. And so this can talk about anything in life. This can talk about, you know, you really want to become a doctor. You're going to have to go to college, you're going to have to go to university, you're going to have to get a master's degree, you're going to have to get a specialism. You know, that's like several years of your life, right? That is a big thing to sign up for. It's difficult. It could be, I want to own a home, right? But that is a lot of money that I'm going to need to save. I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to get an extra job. I'm going to have to take on extra shifts. It's possible, but it feels, when you stood at the bottom looking at the top, you know, and it's looming over you, it feels like something that'll never happen. And so, like I say, the mountain can symbolize many different things, but it does symbolize really difficult work ahead, you know, a big commitment. The message that was coming through with this kind of like teleport energy, I was actually seeing The Sims. I play a computer, I'm sure most of you know what The Sims is. And in one of the kind of packs that you can get, there's it's got like mountain climbing, and it takes a long time to do. You have to like skill up, you have to you know, sometimes you fail, and it's quite a big kind of goal in the game to climb this mountain. But I like to think out of the box. I like to do like, I like to break the game. And so I'm like, I wonder if I could fly my, because there's another pack that's like witches, and you can, spellcasters they're called, and you can like get on a broomstick and like teleport to places. You can fly to places on your broomstick. So I was like, why would I bother with all that hard work when I could just fly up there on my broomstick? So I did. I flew all the way to the top on my broomstick, and it was much easier. I did it both ways, right? And so I was like, haha, hacks, shortcut. And so what I was getting with this kind of like thought, like this memory, was that there might, again, it's the out of the box thinking. Like for most people, they follow the set, and you should, right? If you're following Everest, if you're climbing Everest, follow the guidance, right? There's a lot of people who've done this before you, and people die up there. So, you know, don't take a shortcut up Mount Everest. But if this is more applying to some sort of task, I want to say it's not the sort of thing, it's not like I want to get a degree, so I'm going to use ChatGPT to write all my essays. Although, honestly, hacks, like, I don't think it's the right thing to do, because it depends what you want from university, right? When I went to uni, I wanted knowledge, I wanted to learn, I wanted to know my shit, right? I locked in. But, you know, if you just want a certain qualification so you can move on to the next thing, you know, people who are using ChatGPT to do that, although I don't agree with it, I don't think it's right, I can see how that's a hack for them. So this doesn't necessarily feel like cheating. This feels more like unlocking a secret route is the way it comes through. So it's almost like somebody coming to you and being like, okay, you want to buy a house. Most people do it like this, but I've actually got a house that you can use. I've got a spare house, and, you know, I just want somebody in it, because if nobody's in it, you know, it's going to get moldy, you know, it'll fall into disrepair. But if somebody's living in it, you know, they're going to keep it warm, they're going to maintain it. So as long as you get in there and maintain it, you can be in that house for free. And you're like, great, I'm going to save on my rent. So it's something, it feels like that. Again, it feels like wish fulfillment with the 9 of Cups here. It feels too good to be true, but I want to say it serves both people, right? It's not a scam. It actually feels like somebody's coming in and being like, I can help you. Let me help you because it'll benefit me. Which, again, I don't want to make weird promises. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up because that feels like a really extreme situation. And it could just be for one person. Like, one person is like, hell yeah, you know? I don't know. Like I say, whatever the mountain symbolizes, it's something that's really time consuming. For somebody, because I was getting Everest, it takes like, I think about 3 months, I think is the average to climb Everest. It's not like you go for a week and you're up there. You know, this is a big time commitment as well. And because I was getting Amy Winehouse rehab, there's a line that says, I haven't got 70 days, right? I haven't got 70 days to go to rehab. So it kind of feels a little bit like, again, whatever that mountain is, it's kind of like somebody saying, I want to do that, but it's a really big time commitment. I don't have 3 months to spare to climb that mountain. Sorry, I just pulled on the wire. But again, it feels like there's a shortcut. It's like, oh, it won't take you 3 months if you have the fast pass, you know, something like that. Anyway, with this, I then got the table, mounting the table. So 2 things with this. An offer. The table to me in my own deck symbolizes an offer. If people are around the table, they're negotiating, right? You're putting your cards on the table, you're making a deal. And that could be formal, it could be, you know, paperwork, lawyers involved, or it could be, you know, sat around the pub, you know, sat around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, like you're making a deal around the table. Okay, we're going to commit to this, you know, we're all going to invest, we're going to climb that mountain, something like that. But if I switch this around, I'm getting Table Mountain. So Table Mountain is a flat-topped, distinctive, flat-topped kind of red rock mountain in South Africa. So specifically South Africa or Table Mountain could be very relevant to somebody. There could also be something generally about Africa. The lion came through. Now, if I put it like this, it's like the mountain lion. Again, Leo energy coming through massively. So what I was getting with the mountain lion, this isn't Africa, right? A mountain lion is a cougar. They're like America, like the continents of America. But mountain lion to me, the message that I got was, well, this is their home, right? This is what they're good at. So if you think about Sherpas on Mount Everest, again, I don't want to kind of make any weird, I don't accidentally want to say the wrong thing, but I'm just going to have to say what I'm getting because otherwise I can't explain it. So if you think about the Sherpas on Mount Everest, right, they live there, right? They have adapted, like they do it, they like travel around that terrain so much that yes, it's still dangerous, but they're experts, right? They know how to watch out for the danger signs, the warning signs. I've seen pictures of the Sherpas picking up like massive backpacks, like carrying like huge, cumbersome, heavy things on the backs, and they do it easily. And then like the person who's visiting, like the tourist will try and do it, they can't pick that thing up, right? They're totally unbalanced. And again, it's kind of like the message that I'm getting with the mountain lion is, whatever the mountain symbolizes, whatever this big difficult task is, or this hostile environment, or this huge responsibility, there's somebody who is like, that's their environment though. They know how to navigate that mountain. For them, it's a lot easier because it's their home turf. So again, I want to say, again, I'm picking up on like 2 people. It feels like the feminine, again, is like looking at this mountain and being like, that's an impossible task. How will I ever do that thing? It's a huge commitment. I haven't got 3 months. And then the lion coming in and being like, it's almost like this is the guy who works in finance, right? This is the guy who works in real estate. And so where this person's like, how am I ever going to afford a house? This person's like, well, actually, if you take out a loan here and you use that loan to buy this property, you can use the rent on that property to get this property. It's like they're making it easy for you. It's like, they're like, this is how it works. This is what I do. This is my job. This is my field. This is my specialism. Let me give you my knowledge. Let me. Do you see how that's working? Do you see how that's all coming together? Table Mountain as well in South Africa, and talking about people who have a lot of money obviously makes me think of Elon Musk. He's from South Africa. I can't really see him doing anyone any massive favors, but you never know. He's not a Leo. What's his star sign? I feel like he's a Cancerian. Maybe he's on the cusp. I don't know. I don't know what Bill Gates' star sign is. I don't want to say Taurus. Let me Google him. Bill Gates star sign. He's a Scorpio. Why are they always water signs? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Disregard that if it could be nothing. I segued. Again, going back to pregnancy, the song A Woman's Work came through by Kate Bush. And I believe this song is about a difficult pregnancy or surviving pregnancy. Obviously, if you've watched Handmaid's Tale, you know that in certain parts of the world or during certain periods of history, even now, even with like the best medical care, humans are not very well designed for giving birth. Honestly, like I don't know, like our hips are narrow. You know, if you watch animals doing it and they're just like popping them out like with no effort, like we suffer. So anyway, pregnancy, giving birth, it's really dangerous for women. This is why if you go back and look at like Roman times, you know, like, I don't know, men were all dying in war, women were all dying in childbirth, you know, like the survival rate of humans was not as good as it is now. So there does seem to be something coming through with the idea of pregnancy being something that's dangerous. Again, I can't shake this idea of like somebody coming in with the idea of surrogacy. You know, maybe it's something like I've got all the money in the world, but I haven't got a child. And maybe it is because of the unicorn, right? The unicorn is kind of like, if you're talking about kind of like sex, a unicorn can be used as a term for a couple who are looking for a third, right? So that's kind of where my thought process is on that, but it doesn't feel like it's a sexual thing, right? It could be pregnancy. So it's kind of like, I've got all this money, I've got all these resources, I've got all these assets, but I haven't got an heir. Maybe they've got a wife that they love very much, but maybe they have a medical condition where, you know, having a child could be particularly dangerous. It could be like really life-threatening. Or maybe they are a really good person and they really want to be a mother, right? Maybe they could adopt. I really love the idea of adoption, but maybe this person's determined to have like a biological heir. Watch out if Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I feel like, has a lot of children with a lot of women. He has a lot of heirs. If Elon Musk turns up like, hey, I'll buy you a house if you have my baby, just think about that before you commit to it. You know, have a little think. But basically, the song "A Woman's Work" it's talking about parenthood, giving birth, motherhood. Let me just find the lyrics. I feel like I screenshot them, but now I can't find them. Oh, somatics. Oh, I forgot to talk about somatics. Side note, if you don't know what somatics are, this came through so strongly when the mountain first came through. I was really getting something about how sound creates vibrations and how this can be used to manipulate water. I'm going to put up like a tiny little clip of the video that I found about semantics, just sound affecting matter. It's so interesting. Go down that rabbit hole if you want. I was wondering if it was like just talking to me about Stranger Things. If you've seen the recent Stranger Things, they use sound and vibrations for a certain purpose in that. Kate Bush, a woman. Sorry, I thought I had this screenshot and then I didn't. Pray God you can cope. I stand outside this woman's work. This woman's world feels very Handmaid's Tale. Oh, it's hard on the man. Now his part's over. Now he starts the craft of the father. I think it's actually taken from the man's perspective. I don't know this song super well. Obviously, I know it. I've heard it a lot of times, but I've never thought about it until now. I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. Yeah, I think it's written from the male perspective. It's kind of like wanting to be more involved in a child's life, perhaps, but feeling like they've been taught to be stoic. I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking. It's kind of like I can't do anything. Like, once the man's job is over, right, he's planted the seed, it's the woman's work, right? She has to watch her nutrition. She has to go for those checkups. She has to carry that child for the 9 months and then give birth to that child, right? And then even then, if we're talking about really traditional gender roles, if somebody perhaps has been brought up with that, it's kind of like the man goes out and works, right? The man is, not in the home, the man is out earning, and then the woman's in the home raising those children. So there could definitely be something about a man who wants to be more involved in his child's life, or perhaps regrets not being involved in his child's life. I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking of all the things I should have said that I never said. Again, this feels like whoever the guy is in this reading, or this energy that's coming through, they feel like they have so many regrets. They really feel like they're beating themselves up for doing something wrong and betraying someone in some sort of way. Again, it could be they betrayed their own child. I can't stop thinking of all the things I should have said that I never said, of all the things we should have done that we never did, of all the things I should have given but I didn't. Oh, darling, make it go away. Give me these moments back. Give them to me. Give me that little kiss. Give me your hand. So it feels like somebody maybe who's missed somebody's childhood. Like I say, Silver Spring came through. So this guy, like, again, this feeling of, You're So Vain as well. Like these songs kind of came through together. I had about 5 or 6 songs that all had the same vibe and the same feeling. Somebody who perhaps has some fame, the Leo energy, the King of Wands, they can often be in the spotlight. They might have a lot of admirers. This may have really gone to their head, right? They may have had a problem with their ego, because I believe You're So Vain was written about like Warren Beatty, right? And everybody wanted Warren Beatty at one point. I was a bit too young for the whole Warren Beatty hype train. I don't know. missed that one. But You're So Vain, you probably think this song is about you. Now, I've always thought about that song as being about the person. You're So Vain, you probably think this song is about you, but it is, right? You're singing about that guy. You keep talking about him. But then when I was listening to it for this reading, I actually thought, no, this song is about her. This song is about her and her experience falling in love with this man and, getting over him, seeing him for who he was. Again, the energy feels quite accepting. Not accepting and understanding is different than condoning. I have to make that distinction clear. Like, if a guy's cheating on you, you don't have to stay with him. You can be like, I love you for who you are, but I can't be in a relationship with you. Feels a bit like the woman's done that. And then Silver Spring by Fleetwood Mac. Again, this kind of like 70s vibe. It was coming through really strong, really like... Oh, I'm going to get to the reading. I'm going to go here because you'll understand better when I show you these cards. So we start off with work, right? There's definitely something about work. Whether this is literal work, like these two people worked together, because the 8 of Earth is work, right? It's what you do. And it's talking about getting better at what you do. It's like you do it again and again and again until you're the best at it, or until you're as good as you can be. You're perfecting something. So again, we could be talking about people who are musicians. Maybe the woman is a songwriter. Maybe she's a creative. Maybe the guy... What's that? He works in... I'm looking for a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes. Do you remember that meme? He could have been the man in finance that everybody wanted to get with. And so whatever these two were doing together, it feels like they were on a project together, they worked together, they created together in some sort of way. And again, this could be how, if you are in a partnership, it might not be literal work. You know, if you are a mother, if you are a housemaker, you might not get paid a salaried wage for doing that work, but it is work. You know, some people, I saw a skit, and it was kind of like a red pill guy, and kind of like Eastern European woman. I think it was a skit, and the guy was saying sort of like, if you're with me, you'll be my, you know, I expect you to clean the home. And she's like, I'll get you a cleaner. And he's like, no, I want you to clean the home. And she's like, well, like, if you want the house to be clean, like, I can get you a cleaner, kind of thing. It's kind of like, and he's kind of like, and she's like, well, you pay a cleaner, so if I'm going to clean the house, you can pay me, and I'm going to use that money to get a cleaner. And it's kind of like, the logic was infallible. And so it's kind of like, well, if that is a job that people get paid for, if people get paid to clean, or people get paid for childcare, why is a woman who stays in the home and she's doing it all for free, why do we not value that as work, right? So again, I don't know if this is how this relationship played out, but this card is symbolizing work. Raising children is work. Anyone who's raised children know that it's hard work. The interesting thing is this next comes with this card. Now, at first, I totally noticed the gate. Again, this thing about a gate is coming through really. It's kind of making me think of Wuthering Heights. You know, if you've watched the Margot Robbie trailers, I don't like the aesthetic they've gone for. The vibe is totally off for me, but I trust Margot Robbie to know what she's doing, and I'm sure she'll make it work. I've read Wuthering Heights several times, and I've started reading it again because I want to refresh my memory. And it's not a love story. It's a really dark story. Anyway, again, side note. So what I was noticing here really was this gateway, and again, especially because the gate card came out in the reading before it, sort of makes me think about how, is it Isabella and is it Heathcliff or like Hareton? I can't remember all the names. This is why I need to reread it to refresh my memory, because I don't know, it's a generational story. There's like 3 generations in it, and I get confused. I've got a bad memory, but I think they do go out and they meet at the garden, right? They meet at like the gate at the bottom of the garden. So that's what I saw at first, but then I noticed that there's this like death figure, right? The figure of death here. And I got the feeling that, especially with the following cards, it feels a little bit like maybe someone got let go from a work project, or maybe somebody got fired, or maybe, because the death card is like somebody got the chop, right? Whatever this situation was, it ended. But I want you to really notice this kind of like light that's shining from her heart to him, because this is relevant to the rest of the reading. So I feel like somebody wasn't valued, like their contribution wasn't valued. Again, if it's that thing of like the guy stepped out of the relationship and abandoned his baby mama, it's kind of like he didn't realize how much work she did. But it could be several years have passed and now he realizes, right? Now he sees it. Or it could be a literal work project where this person, the female, made a massive contribution, but maybe it wasn't evidence-based. Maybe it was more of a vibe, right? You know, do you get people like that in the workplace where they don't necessarily do a lot of the work, but they keep the vibe high? This is Leo energy for me. The Leo comes into the office and like suddenly everybody's like smiling and joking and laughing. And maybe they're not the most productive person, right? Maybe their numbers aren't as high as everybody else's. Maybe they don't get all the work done. But when they're not in the office, the vibe changes and everybody's maybe sad or tired and productivity goes down. So even though they're not contributing in an evidence-based way, it's like you can't look at it and say, okay, you closed the most accounts, you made the most money, you know, you did the most on this project. But because they keep the whole office happy, like the overall productivity level is higher, right? It's kind of like the personality higher, I guess. So it's kind of like, it's something like that where, you know, maybe they didn't have the paycheck. If it's like a housewife, she didn't make the money, she didn't have the paycheck, but she kept everything going, right? She was like the glue that held everything together. And so if she's not in that situation, everything falls apart. It's kind of like you don't know what you've got till it's gone. So anyway, there's something as well about the strings coming through really clearly. So obviously this violin has strings, this musical instrument, and then it goes to like this energy. So this fell off the table, but it felt like an echo of this card. So you see this kind of like dancing, this balancing on one foot. Could be there's someone, I get a ballet dancer energy a lot, you know, somebody who is a ballet dancer. I don't know if I don't know anyone personally who's a ballet dancer. I assume it's one of my viewers because it comes up quite often, but nobody's ever come forward and said, hey, yeah, that's me, I'm the ballet dancer. But again, it could be some kind of performer, again, something to do with music, something to do with the arts, something to do with theatre maybe, not necessarily. But you can see that she's like balancing on this string, so I'm getting something almost like, because it's here as well, you can see here like the two strings, and it like kind of looks like a trapeze to me. So this looks like a high wire and this looks like a trapeze. So something about the circus possibly. It feels like, again, because people don't value the arts, do they? They don't see the contribution that the arts makes to society. The string to me is talking about being at the end of your rope, right? Or like it being somebody's last chance, or being in a precarious situation. It's like hanging on by a thread, something like that. So because she's here, you can see like all the blue, right? Something about this situation, because there's a lot of blue cards and then they go all like warm. So this, whether it's a workplace or a home, it's like it's cold. The situation was cold in some sort of way, or what was done was cold, because it's like the thread's cut, right? She's let go, or, you know, she's being strung along possibly as well. It could be kind of like, yeah, we'll give you a promotion. We just need you to finish that project. I know we said we were going to do a promotion, but money's tight. But if you can close these 3 accounts, if you can close these 3 deals, we'll have more money and then we'll be able to give you that promotion. You know, like it's like the carrot and the stick. It's like somebody being strung along. So it really feels like almost like grasping at straws or being at the end of her rope. It could be like being on a final warning, something like that. There's a really precarious, because like he's looming over her, a really precarious situation. But there's also something about either she's not like the others. So again, it could be somebody who's not neurotypical in a very neurotypical workplace environment, right? So it's kind of like the autistic girl in the office, you know, something like that, where, because all these other birds are like flying around, they're doing it easily, but she's really having to use a lot of strength. There's something about her strength, this keeps coming up, something about her strength to balance on that wire, right? It takes her a lot of effort, and she's awkward. She's not like the other birds, you know, something like that. I don't want to kind of like stereotype, but I've got to tell you what's coming through in some sort of way, and this is the best way I know how. So either you relate to it, please don't get angry with me. I think it's a situation that a lot of people can empathize with. At least when I go on like TikTok and I look online, you do get a lot of stories of people who are autistic in the workplace, or who are not neurotypical, and you know how they feel and their experiences, and this feeling of like wearing a mask to fit in, and you know having to use a lot more energy to try and get the same things done that everybody else finds so easily. For me, this is tidying. Again, if I've got ADHD, this explains so much about my life, because it takes me forever. I'm one of those people that's like, right, I'm going to tidy, and then I make more of a mess, and suddenly I've got like 5 piles of clothes and everything's out the cupboards, and I'm like, that was meant to be like a 5-minute thing, and I just turned it into like a massive thing, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I walk off and leave it like that for about 5 months. So like, and I look at other mums, and I look at like other people who keep the houses really tidy, and I'm like, I literally don't understand how you do that. Like, if I was to keep my house that tidy, all I would do would be tidy my house. Like, it would be all my time and energy. I literally don't understand how people do it. So that sort of thing, right? She's having to put so much more work in than everybody else, is how it feels. And again, walking that tightrope, because, you know, she said the wrong thing, she's put a foot in her mouth, something like that. So then next up we get The Eight of Earth and this kind of like wolf card. This to me is talking about family, right? And again, like everybody being the same in this family. So we could be talking about somebody who's kind of like the black sheep of a family. They are the awkward one, they're the ugly duckling, something like that. Or again, if it's because it's next to the work card, feels like this is everybody else in the office. Like they're all like wolves. I was getting something, I had a vision that was talking about, it was like a wolf in sheep's clothing, but the way it came through, I was shown like a paddock with all these lambs in, all these sheep in. And I felt like, not me literally, but I was from the point of view of a literal wolf in sheep's clothing. Like on the outside, I looked like a sheep, but on the inside, I was a wolf. And like, if you think of like the Wolf of Wall Street as well, right? So it's somebody who is like, it's like they are a sheep, but they think like a wolf. And so the sheep were their family and they were protective over the sheep, but because they could think like a wolf, they knew where. It's like I was scanning the tree line. It's like if I was a wolf and I was going to eat these sheep, I'd come from that tree line there. I would hide in those shadows there. I'd wait behind that thing. And so it's like I knew where they were going to come from and I could like move the sheep away. So say the flock of sheep had moved to a certain tree line and I was like, if I was a wolf, I'd be in that tree line. And so I could go to the other sheep and be like, hey, come over here. The grass is better over here. Come away from that tree line. And then the wolf couldn't attack, right? Because it's like I'd scuppered the plan. And then I was shown this kind of vision shifted. And I was shown the wolf, the sheep, who is a wolf on the inside, was now sat at a table. And it felt like an office, right? It felt like a conference. Maybe somebody's on a conference call. It's like I was now sat at the table with all the wolves because the wolves had recognized that I could think like a wolf, but I was vulnerable because I still looked like a sheep. So it's kind of like I had to be extra cautious because, and again, it was like a Wolf of Wall Street situation. It's like maybe you're like a girl, but you're really good at banking, and then suddenly you sat at the table with all the finance bros. It's like, even though you think like them, you still have a female body, and if this is a particularly bro environment, particularly toxic, if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, like it's quite a, I wouldn't say it's a fairy tale, right? It's something that you're not meant to emulate. Like everything goes horribly wrong for him, and it's because he's a bit of a cock. But he loses listen, he had Margot Robbie in that movie and he fucked up. Like what kind of a pillock do you need to be to, and I feel like this is relevant to the reading because it feels like this is what happened to this person. Like what kind of an idiot do you have to be to fuck up a relationship with Margot Robbie? It's like, it doesn't get better than that, right? So in that film, and so like, yeah, so it's kind of like being Margot Robbie, but you're in the at the table with all the finance bros. It's kind of like you've got to think 10 steps ahead, right? You've got to keep yourself safe. I don't know, but it's like, again, this environment, it feels so cold. So look at all these cards, even the one next to it, even the one next to the wolf family. Look at all these blues. And again, I got Blue John. Blue John to me feels like a name. It's like, oh, John, he's very blue. He likes a dirty joke. Blue John. I feel like John is a literal person. But yeah, if you look at this environment, it's cold, right? And again, it could be very corporate. It could be very ruthless. It could be very cliquey. One of the boys. And so it does feel like whether this person gets kind of like isolated, again, with this kind of like holding on by a thread, and because we've got like, surrounding this card, we've got the Scythe and then the Magician's Sword. Obviously, they would cut a thread. So it's kind of like this person's been cut off or cut out, or because this is solitariness and she's on her own in a desert, it's like she's been abandoned, she's been deserted. It could just be like all the boys go out for drinks after work and you weren't invited because you're the girl, and they're like, well, we thought you wouldn't want to come. And you're like, well, I do want to come. I'm one of the boys. I don't know, but she's kind of sat here, right, on her own. But what I'm getting is like she's really good. Like she doesn't seem to mind because she's got confidence in her own magic, right? And then there's something that coming through really strongly about these birds, right? So what's that phrase? The bird on the wire. Can be something about that phrase. I'm just gonna stop and restart because I've gone over the 40-minute cut-off mark. Yeah. So the phrase "a bird on a wire." So it's kind of like she's not actually alone, is the way it's coming through. There's something about these other birds. Okay, it's like the other girls in the office, right? Something like that. She might be one of the finance bros, but there's other girls in the office who are like the receptionists, and like suddenly she's kind of like, well, I thought I was going to go with the other people who do the same job as me, but now I'm here with nothing wrong with being a receptionist, honestly. Skills, the kind of skills that I don't have. Like, I would love a PA or a receptionist in my life. Like, I would get so much more done. Like, somebody sort out my diary for me. I am not good with dates, right? I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. It's almost like this guy is kind of like, I need a PA. I am a scatterbrain. I'm the ideas man. So yeah, like, yeah, there's something about, I want to say as well, because swords, if this was like the Ace of Swords, that is an idea, right? Somebody's really good with concepts, somebody's really good with ideas, someone has a lot of like light bulb moments. And I feel like she has the light bulb moments. So again, it could be something where, again, I have this feeling of like, no, I like being alone. So I'm going to talk about two things in terms of this. One, again, if this person is not neurotypical, right? So again, I'm not saying anything good or bad about anybody. I'm just talking about generalizations. It's going to be different for different people. So please bear with me while I talk about this. So there could be something where, you know, for a lot of people, they could be social life, like networking, being part of the work family could be really, really important to them. For this person, they could actually prefer being alone, right? They work really well on their own. They like their own company. Maybe they don't like social situations. Maybe they get overwhelmed by that. They get tired. They get stressed out. So again, you see sort of like what might be happening in that situation. Or what was the other thing that I was getting? Because there was two different ways this was coming through. It's kind of like, no, you go ahead without me. I don't want to party. I'm gonna lock in on these reports because that's the way my brain wants to operate. What was the other thing that was coming through? Something else. I might come back to it. It's gone. So then we get this thing about success. Again, I really feel like this is something about, again, you know, like I saw something, maybe I talked about this in the last reading. I saw a TikTok with this guy who, his story was he was autistic and he has a lot of trouble in the workplace because people don't like him because he goes in and he to him, he's doing his job. He's like, I'm going in and I'm seeing problems. And so I go to the manager and say, hey, I've seen this problem. And they don't like it. They don't like that I'm pointing out problems, but I'm trying to make everything better. But how do I make things better if they don't want me to point out the problems? So he was going in a very like logical, fact-based, I can see very clearly right and wrong, black and white, this is a problem and he's solving. Where the rest of the workplace were more kind of like, we're just going on vibes here, you know, like, and so he was sort of talking about this and his experiences in different workplaces like this. And someone in his comments said, and it was so, I thought it was such a hurtful thing to say to someone who was autistic, because commonly people who are autistic have a lot of problems navigating social situations. But this person in the comments said, basically, you can do no work, but have a good personality and everybody like you, and keep your job. Like, you can get promoted if people like you and if you've got good social skills. And they weren't saying it in a way that was like, I agree with you, I'm complaining. They were saying it like, you just have to be better with people. You're the problem. And I was like, that it felt like a really harsh thing to say. But it is true, if at least in a neurotypical workplace, right? If you are in a classic office environment, where networking is really important. It's not what you know, it's who you know. The quality of your work doesn't matter. It's whether the boss likes you or not. That's where you get successful. The fish means success, right? Swimming upriver kind of thing. That's kind of what it means. But to this person, they feel like a fish out of water, right? They're not in their natural environment. And again, remember, we've got the mountain lion, the table and the mountain lion. So the man feels like he's at home in this environment. This is what he's good at. This comes naturally for him. The woman feels like the fish out of water. She's like, and again, I don't know if it's a gender thing. I don't know if it's a neurodiversity thing. It could be none of those things. But for whatever reason, the feminine energy is coming through as kind of like, but I'm a bird, I'm not a fish, right? And I can't do the things that a fish can do because my feathers get wet. I can't breathe underwater. But on the same note, the fish can't do what the bird can do, right? And the fish would do well to remember this. I think this is where we're going. So yeah, it feels like this person gets left behind a lot because they can't do the social aspect. And again, it could be many different things. I experienced this as like a non-smoker. So I've been in certain workplaces, or I've been out on a night out, and the smokers all disappear outside and they come back and they've got all these jokes and anecdotes, and you feel like you've missed out. You feel like you've got FOMO, but you don't want to go and stand outside in the cold and get a face full of smoke, right? If you're not a smoker. And so you do feel like you've missed out. You're kind of like, oh, okay, everybody went off without me. Great. Okay. It could also be, somebody who's gone on maternity leave. In the UK, we have, I think it's up to a year maternity leave at this point. I think you get 9 months. You get like so many weeks paid by your employer, and then you go on to statutory maternity pay, which is kind of like a set amount that the government pays. And then I think you can take a full year, but I think the last 3 months are not paid. Which I think is great. I think maternity leave is a wonderful thing. And I think it's sad that America doesn't have the same kind of thing. America, employee rights, learn them. Productivity levels are going to go up. You're going to have a happier workforce. A happy workforce is a productive workforce. Just embrace employee rights. They're a good thing. Anyway. And that's not to say there's probably people in the UK who are like, oh my God, I've got I'm in an office, I've got 4 women who are all on maternity leave right now. I'm having to pay a fortune to cover them because I don't want to employ somebody else because they might come back, but they might also, I understand that it's difficult for employers, but they are a good thing, right? Maybe the government could help out a little bit more in terms of small businesses. Where am I going with this? I don't even know. Yeah, it could be that kind of thing. Like you've been out of the office for 9 months and you come back and you feel like you've missed so much, and everybody's got their own little cliques and things. It's all changed and you're back and you're kind of like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know anyone. It could be something like that as well. Anyway, I think that the King of Fire starts to realize that the fire is ignited by this one, the female, right? The ideas person, the creative, whoever she is. Because when she's not there, it feels really cold, right? He's starting to realize that the mood changes, right? He's kind of like, okay, I might come in and do my thing, but the workplace feels cold. It feels flat. What's changed? And so it feels like there's this period of being like, why is nothing working? Why is the spark gone? Why do the ideas that we have for projects never work out? And it's because you've cut out this one. And again, she feels like she's maybe more creative. She's more ideas. Maybe she's not a practical person at all. Maybe they're actually very similar, these two. Maybe they don't look good on paper, but they keep the spark lit in the workplace, right? They keep the fire lit, something like that. because the fire is starting to be it's next to realization. And it could even be that because the king of fire feels like even maybe a boss, it definitely feels somebody who is important to whatever this company is. And it feels like they're going, I'm starting to realize with the realization card, because the girl's on here, the warmth, the fire, the spark, the excitement, the creativity, the enthusiasm is sparked by that one. The quirky one that comes in with all these mad ideas gets me fired up. I might get mad at her, but I use that as drive, right? Like, she might say something random, but it sparks my own creative ideas. There's something about this one that when she's cut out, the whole thing goes cold. Because you can look here as well. There's something about, do you remember at the beginning of the reading, I was talking about school systems and education systems, and how again, you can get some great schools that really do things out of the box, but generally speaking, like if you go to a mainstream school, they're quite old-fashioned, right? They're quite traditional, and if you have a particularly creative brain, it can be very difficult to focus or lock in or do something that's very boring and repetitive day after day after day. So there's something about how the brain, the head, the skull is under this cloche, and then like all the butterflies are in here. It's something about it's something like doing things by the book contains or locks out all the creative ideas, all the imagination, all the creativity is like pushed out, is closed out, right? Is kept separate. And so all you're left with is by the book. So the realization seems to be that doing things by the book, following the old rules, shuts down creativity and has a quite a negative impact on the entire workplace, is the way this feels. And so we go to, with this realization, because again, I want to talk about how, like, you've got the separation of like the cold, the blues, and the warmth, the warms. Because she's the warmth, right? So this is the workplace. The workplace is all blue. The family, the wolves, all blue, cold. She's the warmth, right? Because even when she's on her own, the warmth is still there. So it's kind of like you can take the thing out of the environment, but you can't take the environment out of the thing. So it's kind of like, it's harder to tell when they're together where that energy and passion comes from. But when you separate them, like you've got the entire workforce here that's like cold and dead and not creative. But even though she's on her own, even though she's been separated, she's still being really creative. And so you start to see, like, without her, there's no creativity. She doesn't need them, they need her. That's what I was going to say earlier. So there's some research, and I don't know how valid this is, it's just something I've heard, where if a man is married to a woman, he lives longer. He lives something like 3 to 5 years longer if he's married. If a woman is unmarried, she lives longer. So it's more beneficial. Women don't need to be married, right? They do perfectly well on their own. And I think this is again because of gender constructs. In Western societies, we have these ideas of what, not even in Western societies, I'd say this is pretty global, but like a lot of places have this idea of like, what is a woman's work? What are women things? What is it to be a woman? What is allowed and what is not allowed if you're a woman? And then these more stoic ideas for a man, like a man shouldn't show emotions. He should be stoic. He should be hardworking. He should be unemotional. Like all that kind of like, we know that's toxic. We know that's bad for both women and men. We know that is like an old, outdated attitude that is toxic and harmful, right? We shouldn't perpetuate that. It's harmful to everybody. Because it's emotionally stunted, right? It's kind of like and that's not good for a person, for their own personal development. Being the King of Cups, right? If we talk about the Page of Cups versus the King of Cups, the Page of Cups is emotionally immature, right? The King of Cups is emotionally deep, and he does get to choose when he shows emotion. But he's not unfeeling. He feels very, very deeply. He just has emotional control. And emotional control comes from emotional maturity and learning emotional skills. So he is perfectly capable of expressing his emotions, and he's going to do it very calmly and very wisely. But he's not going to lock them down and bottle them up and pretend he doesn't have them, because that would not be the King of Cups, you know? So I women, when they're on their own, you know, maybe it's a widower, or maybe it's a woman who never gets married. She normally has friendship groups, you know, she normally has support systems, she normally has a good relationship with her children, whatever it is. Normally women are fine on their own. Not always, you know, I'm not saying there's no lonely women, but as a generalization, as a kind of like a statistic, I guess, men don't do very well on their own. They tend to isolate. They tend to suffer more. Yeah, I don't know why that's come back around. So yeah, the realization is that, yeah, she's good on her own. She's got the warmth, you know. She doesn't need anyone else to bring warmth to her life or to bring creativity to her life. She's got it. Yeah, baby, she's got it. And so again, going back to Silver Spring, it feels like this one's realizing, because she knows she's good on her own. This is the whole thing. She knows she's good. So she's saying, the message of that song, it's coming through like, if we take the story of that song, you'll never get away from the sound of the woman who loves you. And so it's saying, everything we built together, everything we did together will remind you of me. All the songs we wrote together, you know, every time someone brings something up, you know, someone talks about that old project, you'll remember that you loved me. You'll remember that we had fun together. You'll remember my contribution. Like, it's kind of like her creativity, her personality is all over the work that they did together. And so it's kind of like, everything you are, everything you're proud of, everything you've built up, your entire company. Again, think of like Bill Gates and his wife, right? They kind of built that company together. It's kind of like, you can't be who you are. You can't be that. You can't be proud of your work without also being proud of me and my contribution, because you know what I contributed to that. You know, so, and it doesn't feel vindictive. It's almost like the warmth is still there, that you'll never get away from the sound of the woman who loves you, right? She doesn't hate him. He chose something else. He didn't choose her, right? There's something as well, you know, the lines where she's saying like, I don't want to know that you love her, this other person. I don't want to know, you know, what she looks like. I don't want to know anything about, you know, maybe it's like who you cheated on me with. That doesn't matter, because I'm not going to compare myself to her. This isn't about her, right? I like who I am. You made a choice. And it feels like that love's still there. There's still a lot of fire and passion. And she's kind of like, that's going to haunt you. You chose badly, and that's going to haunt you, is the way this is kind of coming through. And it doesn't feel vindictive, right? She loves him. I want to say he's realizing this. And then I don't know if this realization's coming in with this massive burst of like love and happiness and excitement. I don't know if he didn't realize that she loved him, right? Like, I don't know if this is a situation of like, it just never clicked that this woman loved him. Maybe they weren't in a relationship. Maybe it was purely like a business relationship. But because the realization is coming in with the king, I don't know if you can see this, is coming in with the king of fire. Like, look at this, the fire, the realization, the king of fire. And then above that is the corn card and this success. The corn card is the best thing you could think of. Like, there's nothing better. And the reason why is because of that, that recess therapy clip that went viral of the little boy who's like, it's corn. Like, I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. So the corn card to me in my readings is like, you can't imagine something more beautiful than this. There is nothing better. The grass is not greener on the other side. This is the most beautiful thing. This is the best thing, right? So it's so exciting. And then because this is followed then by the King of Fire and the Nine of Cups, the Nine of Cups is wish fulfillment. You can't imagine anything better than this. This is the best thing you could possibly have. This is all your wishes fulfilled. It's like the best you'll ever get or something. I don't know. It's kind of like, because it feels like it's definitely the King of Fire who's realizing this. He's like, oh shit, I really did fuck up. But it coming through like, it's coming through with all this excitement and warmth and happiness. It comes through as like, he's really excited. He's like, oh my God, this is the best thing. So I want to say the King of Fire is making perhaps some sort of offer, maybe it's like, hey, come and work with me again. I know I fucked up. Things haven't been the same since you left. Come and work on this project with me. It feels like she's really excited too. It's kind of like the project that she always dreamed of working on. He's like, it's kind of like he wants to return it. He's kind of like, oh, I see the value you brought to this now. I see how everything I have is because of you. And so now I want to return the favor. I want to give something back to you, is the way it's coming through. With the Nine of Cups, it's kind of like, I want to make you as happy, but not just happy, because it feels like it's coming through with finances. It's like, I want to make you as, like, it's like I want to pay you properly. Like, I didn't see your worth before, but now I want to pay you properly. And I want you to be as comfortable as I am. But then it seems like, I don't know if there's something with the internet here or travel, because we come in then with the Netcaster, preparations come to fruition, and bravery oceans. So I don't know if there's going to be some travel. It's like she has to maybe move location. I am reading this as the internet, because like the world is like the globe, like the World Wide Web, and the net is like the internet. I want to say it could be something about working from home. It could be something about maybe the job involves the internet. Maybe you're managing, I'm saying you, I don't know who you are in this situation. Maybe you're just here for the story time, but it feels like, you're going to be my communications person. You're going to be on the web team, something like that. It feels like it's something to do with the internet or communications. But then it feels like there's some assurance coming in here as well, because we've got this wish fulfillment, and like the King of Fire as well is really generous. There's something coming through about a safety net. So you remember here where I was saying it's like she's holding on by a thread, she's holding on by a string. So it might be something to do with like, she wasn't paid properly in this company, but she did all the work. Maybe she was the secretary, but she had all the good ideas, right? And so it's kind of like she was struggling to make ends meet. She was, something about the purse strings. There's definitely something about, I want to say maybe about finance there. Maybe she was an apprentice. Maybe she was like an assistant. Maybe she wasn't properly on the payroll, something like that. So it's coming through like, instead of just being this one string or stringing her along, she now has a safety net. So again, do you remember me saying it's like she's on like a tightrope walker, or she's a trapeze artist? It's kind of like she was doing it with no safety net before. It's like she had no savings, she had no backup plan, something like that. She was actually in quite a desperate situation. So now he's coming in like, oh, I actually see it. I feel like he did not see it. He's having this massive realization. He's like, oh God, I actually see it now. I'm coming in with the safety net. Like, if you fall doing your job, maybe it's like medical insurance if this is in America. If you fall during your job, we're going to catch you with the safety net. So it's kind of like paying her properly, or giving her full medical, or giving her stocks and shares. It's like she's got a backup plan when this netcaster comes in. And the good thing about that is because she now has that assurance, maybe it's like assurances, quality assurance. Is there like that feels like legal to me. I know QA, quality assurance, is kind of like testing the quality of the product, but maybe it's like assurances. It can be like a legal term, can't it, as well, for um is it like finance and banking? You have like assurances. I don't know, I'm not in that field. um but because she has this safety net, because she has her, it's like she has her needs met in some sort of way, instead of being like on this tightrope and always feeling like it's perilous. It's like her foundation is suddenly a lot more sturdy. It's kind of like maybe she has like global support. Have you seen sometimes you get these people on social media and they go up to like homeless people and they say, hey, what's your story? And they're like, will you let me set up a GoFund for you? Will you let me set up a fundraiser? I saw one recently and the lady seemed lovely. And again, I don't know, it's first impressions, but she had like a child in a buggy. And she was talking about how she traveled across the country to, like, I think she was like helping one of her parents. And, when I think like the parent died or something, or an uncle or something, they died, and like the house went to someone else and she ended up on the streets. And it was a really sad situation because she sounded like, and she was like, I don't do drugs, I want what's best for my kid. And there's a lot of people like that. There's so many people who have like fallen through the net and fallen through the cracks. And it's like, if you're in a really desperate situation, there's a lot of resources out there to help you. If you are an addict, you've got all the addiction services there. But there's a lot of people who are really, really like average people, right? They doing a normal job, really just normal situation. And it's like, because they earn a little bit too money to qualify for certain benefits, or, they they're just slightly above that cut-off point. There's like this whole class of people who can't receive help and can't receive benefits and can't access certain services because they're doing too well, right? They're holding it together too well, but their funds are running really low. There's so many people like this, especially in America at the moment, I think. One medical bill and you're out. You lose your job, you lose everything, that sort of thing. And it's like, these are hardworking people. These are people who have like shown up for that 9 to 5. These are people who are working multiple jobs and they have no backup plan. They have no safety net, and they end up on the streets. What's that? I feel like it's sorry, I sometimes hear like little messages come through, and I got like a sound bite. I feel like it's Moulin Rouge. It's like, she'll end up on the streets. A girl's got to eat. And so yeah, I just think that it's like the prices of everything is going up, but minimum wage isn't going up, right? Nobody's getting pay increases, like there's pay freezes. And so again, it's kind of like, you're not low enough to qualify for. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of like society's failing the most hardworking people right now. And I felt this as well with again getting my children assessed. They're getting assessed by like it's called CALMS in the UK. It's like you have to wait for the doctor can't refer you. You have to go through the school. The school take fecking ages because they're underfunded. So it took about 3 or 4 years to finally. Well, my son, it took 3 years to kind of finally get referred. And my eldest is now in college and finally has got a CALMS appointment. It's like she's almost an adult, right? And but still in the children's services. And I think it's because my children weren't a problem, right? They, my eldest is very, very clever. She did well in school. My son is really unproblematic in school. He doesn't make a fuss. He's quiet. He keeps his head down. And so I think they kind of, because they weren't a problem, right? They kind of flew under the radar. Where when we actually got into CALMS, which again is like, it's kind of like an all-in-one, like they bundled everything together. I don't think it's the best system. And I'm not saying anything bad on CALMS. I think, again, they're doing the best that they can with the resources they have. But they've kind of bundled together disability assessment, social services, health and social care, um, emotional support. They kind of like bundled it all together, which I guess seemed like a good idea at the time. But if you literally are just like, hey, we're doing okay, we have a lot of support, but we'd like a diagnosis because we think we have a disability, you're getting bundled in with people who, and again, I'm not shaming anyone for the situation, but you're getting bundled in with people who are, you know, from broken families, who are in the care system. You're getting bundled in with people who are having really bad mental health struggles, who might not have a disability but might do. Like, you've bundled all these people in together. And so because resources are stretched, I think the priority is given to people who need it most, which is quite right, right? This is correct. If somebody is suicidal, or if somebody is, needing to go into the care system because their family situation is really dangerous for them, those children do need to be prioritized, obviously. But it also means that if you are kind of like an average person doing okay, you're kind of getting failed by the system. So my eldest had to struggle through her entire high school year career, like all her high school lessons, probably with the two disabilities, autism and ADHD, struggling to focus, struggling to sit down, struggling with all the different things that come through when you're not designed for that environment, still getting good grades. And I think to myself, had my eldest had a timely diagnosis in year 7, when we said, hey, we need this diagnosis, if the system had worked faster and she'd got it within 6 weeks, and she'd got an assessment plan, and she'd got any medication she may have needed, if she'd have got the proper support, maybe she would have got all A's, right? Or 9s, they call them now. Maybe she would have aced her exams. But because she was struggling trying to do her exams with a disability, and the school was semi-supportive, depends on the day, but the school we had a couple of good people who did a lot for her. I don't know. Do you see where I'm going with that? I feel like I kind of went off on one here. But yeah, it's just another example of like how the system is completely failing this whole group of people who are not doing so badly that they're desperate, right? But they're absolutely on a line, right? They're on they're holding on, like the grasping at straws. They're one paycheck away from being out on the streets, or one bad day away from completely going off the rails. So going back to this feels like when you know everything's covered, when you've got that support. So for example, the difference is the attainment between children who come from a stable, comfortable background where they have a very supportive family around them, and not just like the parents, maybe they've got siblings who are supportive, maybe they've got extended family that they can reach out to. So this might be childcare, right? Maybe your kid's sick that day. You can ring your sister, you can ring your mother-in-law and be like, hey, can you take the kid today? They're too sick to go to nursery, but I have to go to work. You've got that. I don't have siblings, right? I never had that. Like my partner's siblings are quite far away, so I never had that, right? And so if you have a really healthy, stable family and you've got all that support, things are so much easier. And I don't think people necessarily realize until that's taken away from them. And I think it's really easy to look at other people and be like, oh, you just need to do this. Oh, why? I can do it. Why can't you? I'm a single mother. Why can't you do it? Well, maybe they don't have a family to support them. Maybe they don't maybe they have a disability. Like, there's so many factors that can make it so much harder for one group of people than another group of people. So again, if you've got two children who have the same intellectual level, the same all the same chances in life, one who is neurotypical from a very comfortable family, money in the bank, they don't have to worry. They've got those safety nets, right? They've got those backup plans. They can take more risks. They can go for jobs. They can travel, right? They can do all those things. Somebody who doesn't have a family that has the money, they don't have a family, maybe they're not neurotypical, they don't have that, right? So it's the difference between somebody who's like constantly on the line, the danger of that person falling, and somebody who has the whole world at their feet, all the support they could want, a stable situation. And so it feels like this person is coming in. And again, it's that thing of like, you don't know until you experience it, or you don't know until you know, right? And I think maybe this person is from a very comfortable background, and they didn't realize quite how much this person, they just didn't realize the situation that this person was in. So again, it could be that they let them go, and they realized that all the creativity came from this person. Again, maybe from their life experiences, maybe because they had a very diverse background, and a lot of their ideas come from all the different random situations that they've been in their life. And maybe this person's had a very, very, it's like their life was on cruise control. I'm not saying it was, but it's a possibility. And so, yeah, it really feels like this person's coming in now with the safety net, being like, you've done a lot for this company, let me do this for you, possibly. Feels a little bit like a Cinderella story, right? Feels a little bit too good to be true. But the lovely thing is, this is a source of strength for this person, right? Again, they're going from, I love how they end up side by side as well. Like, I love, because the lion's the king of fire, right? And here's the woman. It's like they give each other strength, they give each other support, right? It's kind of like it's mutual support, but it could be like, it looks different. It could be online. It could even just be like chatting online, how was your day? But yeah, it really, really does feel like just the situation feels so much more strong and stable. Like, and then the thing that I love most about this, it kind of ends here, where it's saying something like, because do you remember all these birds at the beginning? It's kind of like the back, like they've always been there. They've always kept a company. Could be talking about spirit. Birds sometimes symbolize to me people on the other side. Like my parents have passed over, so if I see a robin, that's normally a sign of like my mom or my grandma or my maternal family. And so it's kind of like, it could again be other people in the workplace, right? It could be like the next generation of employees, because there's something about how, like, I do yoga, right? And I do like balance poses, and it takes a huge amount of strength. Like, it's not easy to balance. To be a ballerina, right? To stand up on your tippy toes like that, huge amount of strength, like core strength to hold that position. And so it's like, because she was so strong when, like, in this circumstance where it's kind of like she had to be strong, it's like now things are easier. And like, she has that firm foundation. There's something about how strong she is. Like, you can see her, because it's literally here with the strength card, right? It's like you can see like how strong she is. And then it's like she's lifting up these others. Like, she doesn't even need the tightrope anymore because the foundation's strong, right? Sit here, like the birds were sitting on the wire. Now that the foundation's strong, it's like she can lift up the birds herself. She can lift up the others herself, because she has the strong foundation. She doesn't have to worry. So like, instead of all her strength going to maintaining her position, all her strength being holding on, like she had to hold on to that rope, right? And now her strength is holding up others, which I think is like the most, this is why I did this reading. I've done so many readings, and like I did this one and I was like, this is so fucking beautiful. And like with abundance as well, with the Hunter Moon, I just feel like it's almost like maybe like the workplace is getting more diverse, right? Because here it was like all wolves, and like now here it's like maybe it's something to do with like seeing everybody's strengths and weaknesses. You know, here I was talking about how like birds and wolves and the fish, it's kind of like the fish out of water. The fish can't fly, he can't do what she can do, right? She's got wings, he hasn't got wings. So over here it's kind of like seeing how different talents, different, all the uniqueness. Do you remember I talked about Blue John in the beginning of the reading, and how like it's not very well known, right? But it has so much value because it's rare. And so it's like valuing people because they're unique, but because they're rare, because they have different experiences. And then with the cave at the end being protection, I want to say there's something about nurturing. Again, it feels like maybe this is a generational thing. You're nurturing the next group of employees, and instead of being like, why aren't you here on time? Did I talk about this in my last reading? So they're discovering now, they've done some like meta research on ADHD, and is it cortisol levels? Is cortisol a stress hormone? And so it's like when people wake up, you have I want to say it's cortisol. I might be wrong. Do your own research on this. When people wake up, they have a cortisol spike, and it's basically, hey, get up. You've got things to do today. You've got to be at work on time. And it's just this little amount of stress that gets you up and moving. If you've got ADHD, that can be delayed up to 2 hours. So people can be like, that person's so lazy. Oh, it takes them so, like, it's so hard for me to get my son into school in the morning. On time. And you know, when I've heard about this, I was like, that actually explains so much, because it's not that the person's necessarily lazy, it's that they have a disability. Their brain has not given them that cortisol spike that gets them up and moving, right? And along with that, if you've got ADHD, there's things about the reward system in your brain. Again, I'm not a neuroscientist, I don't know the specific chemicals. I want to say it's like serotonin and what's the other one? What's the one that rewards you? And so you don't get the same like reward. Your brain doesn't reward you in the same way. It doesn't motivate you in the same way. So the combination of like the lack of stress hormone and then the lack of the reward hormone means that it's very hard to get yourself up and moving and motivate yourself. And it's not laziness, it's a disability. Your brain is not working how it's meant to work. And so yeah, I think it's really interesting in understanding how there's another survey as well. Sorry, I really like research papers. There's another study that was done, and I think it was around 1,000 students, and this was in the UK, I believe, where they pushed back school starting times to 10 o'clock for a number of years, and the attendance rates went up by 50%. And I think even if a child isn't disabled, if a child is just a normal teenager, the hormone changes that teenagers experience in the body, like this, we know this is research, there's valid evidence to back this up, means that teenagers need a lot more sleep, right? Their bodies are growing, their brains are developing, they need more sleep. And so trying to force teenagers in this weird 9 to 5, well, it's not, is it? It's like 9 to 3 in the UK, but trying to get them to school for 9 o'clock, like their bodies are literally not developed to do that. They are fighting their own hormones, they're fighting their own system to get themselves in at 9. And then it's kind of like you're blaming the kids for their attendance rates. It's like the research says that you're the ones who are doing it wrong. Just open the school at 10, you know? And then especially in winter, I think, where you don't have the natural, like, the light to wake you up on time, you know, like the mornings are darker for longer. So you don't even have like the sun, you know, giving you that wake up call. Like if we were cavemen, we wouldn't be getting up before the sun, you know, we'd wait for the sun to come up and then we'd get up. And so I don't know why the systems force our bodies into an unnatural state, into a stress state, as though that's something to be rewarded, as though, you know, overcoming our natural rhythms is something to celebrate. It's like, why don't we just work with our bodies and get the best out of ourselves? It's so insane to me. So anyway, I feel like there's some kind of like workplace changes here. which I feel like whoever this King of Fire is, who does feel like they're in some kind of, boss or higher position, like they're very kind of, they do very well in whatever this system is. Um, they're really starting to see the value of this quirky one who has been struggling, and they want to help them. So that's nice. That's lovely. Could take some patience. Patience is here. Feels like this person is naturally very patient. The King of Fire doesn't tend to be quite as, they tend to be a bit more fiery. So I don't know. Let me just go back to my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything. Suddenly I See by Katie Tunstall came through. Everything around her is a silver pool of light, which is interesting because I got Silver Spring and then a silver pool of light. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. It does make me think of something, but let me just pull this up. Katie Tunstall, where are you? Sorry, bear with me. Suddenly I See lyrics. There we go. So it feels like this is from this guy's perspective. And again, this idea of like everything around it is a silver pool of light. Can you see? It's like it comes from her heart. It's like she's very passionate about what she does, perhaps. Again, if she's a creative person, that tends to be how creative people operate. It's like that they have to be passionate. Again, like you have to be passionate about it. It's like if there's no passion, you literally, I can't do things if I don't care. Like I just literally can't do it. But can you see like everything? It's like she literally brings the light. It's like she is the love, she's the light, she's the fire. And so it says, I can't see anyone walking in and being like, hey, I'm going to get you a house. I don't see that happening, but maybe. Right. Well, her face is a map of the world. It's a map of the world. You can see she's a beautiful girl. She's a beautiful girl. And everything around her is a silver pool of light. The people who surround her feel the benefit of it. It makes you calm. Again, it's kind of like when she's in the workplace. I don't have a calming effect on the workplace. I cannot claim that for myself. But it's kind of like, maybe she is very loving. She's very patient. Again, I feel like it's whoever this ballerina person is that I keep on getting in my readings. It's like people flock to her, right? It's like naturally people gravitate towards her because she's a very warm, loving person. Like, the people around her appreciate her. So that even could be like her own children, something like that. The people who surround her feel the benefit of it. It makes you calm. And again, when she's removed from that situation, it goes cold. They don't have the benefit of that. Suddenly I see this is what I want to be. Suddenly I see why the hell it means so much to me. Again, it feels almost like, I was saying before about like all these successful men who are like have dyslexia. Like my dad had dyslexia. The thing that I was getting through personally with this reading, when I had this vision of my dad giving me this piece of blue John, and I was getting this message of like, not everybody sees the value of this, but it's very valuable because it's unique. Because I'm going through the process of getting my children diagnosed for ADHD and autism, and because my dad was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I suspect he had ADHD, I think my dad's passed away. I think my dad probably spent a lot of his life feeling very different. He grew up in Nigeria as well, and I know that when he came home, I say home, he wasn't born in the UK. When he came to the UK after growing up in Nigeria, where the culture was very different, he really struggled to fit in with the school system. And I don't think he was neurotypical. I think he had probably ADHD, as well as the dyslexia. And so I think he spent a lot of his life feeling stupid. I remember him trying to, he was an electrician for a lot of his life. And I remember kind of in later life, when I was an adult, he was trying to pass an exam to be like a supervisor, like an electrician supervisor. And he was struggling to pass the exam. And I was like, but you're dyslexic, Dad. Like, if you just go to the college and say to them, I have a disability, I need support, they give you that support and you'll pass the exam. You're not failing because you're stupid. You're failing because it's in a format that you have a disability that means you can't pass that. But he had all the knowledge, right? He'd worked in this job for so many years. And so he knew the job like the back of his hand. He would have managers who knew less than him and he had to teach them how to do it. And so I think the message that I was getting through with this vision of, and again, it could be all myself, it could just be me telling myself a nice story, but this, I felt like it was my dad giving me this piece of Blue John. And so it's kind of like, because I'm supporting my children and because I don't see their disabilities as a weakness, I see it as a unique strength, right? Especially my eldest is autism ADHD, has been through several assessments. It's not complete yet, but the woman who's assessing her is like, yeah, you have these two things. And then the way these two disabilities work together, and sometimes they conflict and sometimes they help each other, everything makes so much sense. And I think my eldest has an absolutely brilliant mind, very intelligent, very funny, so quirky, like a very unique individual, and I think they're amazing. And I don't see a problem with them. I see a problem with society's designed to be a square hole, and she's a star shape. And I think there's something wrong with society, that it hasn't adapted to allow for different shapes, right? It's trying to force everybody into the same shape, and by doing so you miss out on the unique creative innovations that people who are not a square peg can bring. If everybody is a square peg, there's no innovation, right? It takes the quirky people in the world to come up with these scientific advances, or mad business ideas that turn out to be super profitable. And it's a shame, because I think the less wealthy you are, the less stable your family life is, the less successful that individual can be. And again, I feel like this person is like, because they feel the same. They're both fire, right? It's like they both have that same creativity. And it's almost like, in seeing it in her, he sees it in himself. And I want to say it could be something he's been ashamed of, like my dad, right? He, being ashamed of it in himself, and it being something that was wrong with him. And then when you celebrate it in somebody else, or you see it celebrated in somebody else, it's like, I can celebrate it in myself now. And that is a gift. And that is a gift I'm very, very thankful for. That's how that feels to me. The power to be, the power to give, the power to see. Yeah. A Florence and the Machine song came through that said, "Here's to drinks in the dark at the end of my rope." So it kind of felt like that was that point, the end of her rope. It's hard to dance with the devil on your back, so shake him off. Again, somebody could be using alcohol or other substances to numb. It's kind of like, well, I'm at the end of my rope, so I'm just gonna down some shots. It's already a bad situation, I can't make it worse, so I'm gonna get drunk. Feels like somebody had a moment like that, which again, it's so easy to judge people for the choices when you haven't been in their situation. Somebody who's literally desperate, what's that, have you heard that song? It's by somebody, it's like something Esquire, and he's like, "I've got no more fucks to give, my fucks have runneth dry, I'm out of my fuck quota," something like that. It's really good. No more fucks to give. If you Google it, it's a really fun song. But I think a lot of people, it's a familiar thing of like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, whether it's a bad day in work and everybody's drove you mad, it's like, I don't even care anymore, or if it's like, I'm tired of society judging me, I'm just gonna unmask, I'm gonna be my weird self. No more fucks to give. Like, it's almost like hitting rock bottom and being like, well, let's just fuck around and find out. I don't know, if you in social media things, there's a lady on TikTok that I follow called, I think she's called Kat, but she had her kind of jokey thing is sick wife TM. So if you put sick wife into TikTok, she'll probably come up. She's beautiful, beautiful woman, very nice taste, like dresses gorgeous, beautiful hair, makeup is perfection. But she's so funny, so funny, such a quirky, good sense of humor. So her whole sick wife brand was her husband left her. She's sick. She has like cluster headaches, quite serious cluster headaches. She's in America, so she has crippling medical bills, as you do. So being unable to work because you have a debilitating disease, and then having to pay a mortgage and having to pay medical bills is quite a situation. And so she's funny. She's like, I'm pretty. I'm going to advertise for a man on the internet. But she's like, but you have to be able to pay my medical bills. She's so funny. Really, really just off the rails sense of humor, which I adore. Yeah, so she's like my whole feed at the moment. Yeah, it's kind of like she could have just curled up into a ball and given up and not done very well at all, but her sense of humor has really got her through, I think. And I think she's developed this really funny sense of humor because she's had some tough times. She's had some situations in her life that she shares quite openly. It's sort of a bit like if I don't laugh, I'll cry sort of situation. And it feels like that. It feels like the creativity that comes from having no more fucks to give, and being like, well, I'm just gonna be silly then. I'm just gonna be silly, because I don't know, it really does feel like that. Let's get a couple of cards and a couple of songs to close out the reading. I think we need some advice. I think we need some advice right now. Let's see what's coming next. What's happening? Yeah, that's the ugly house. I love that. It's the house. The King of Fire is buying someone a house. The King of Cups as well. The King of Hearts is the King of Cups. So yeah, there's a lot of love. There's a lot of appreciation. There's some deep feelings with this person. The gate's open. Interesting, because I kept on talking about the gate. There's two houses in these two decks. These are by Kira Marchetti. It's the Findicicle and the Lenore deck. Something like that. But there's two houses. There's one that's like a big, fancy, gorgeous Victorian house, and then there's this weird toadstool house that to me looks a bit like a veiny penis. So it's kind of like pretty ugly. Like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Can you see this? Like, it's almost like art. Is it Art Nouveau? Like arts and crafts style, with all the paintings around the window. So it's kind of like, not everybody can appreciate this thing. Again, it's like Blue John, right? Not everybody knows about it. Not everybody can appreciate it, but there's beauty in it, and it's home, and it's comfortable, and I want to say somebody loves it, whatever that means. Again, it's kind of like inheriting the property that nobody else in the family wanted. Everybody's like, oh, that ugly little house, that weird little cottage. But somebody's like, I'm going to move in and I'm going to paint and I can do this to it and I can do this to it. I can do the garden, and to them it's beautiful and it's safe and it's home and it's stability. Feels really good. What else do I want to go for? I think that's it. I'm just going to get a song. So anything that I've missed, please? Any other messages that need to come through? I'm just waiting for Spotify to load, and then I'm going to randomize. Somebody might need to get a Ring doorbell. There's an advertisement for a Ring doorbell, but I'm going to just skip that. Miami by Will Smith. I'm not going to Miami. No fucking way. I have no plans to travel to America. No offense, Americans, but your politics are fucked up right now. Like, what are you doing? Everything that I see about America right now is like, everything's on fire. We're all fighting. Everything's on fire. I would not. Again, my eldest had, they're at college and they had 2 trips to America that they could have gone on. One was to Washington and one was to Chicago. And all I see is like ICE deported, tackling people in the streets and beating them up and deporting them, and like people going missing for months. Like, and there's like an English girl in the news as well who I think had either she was pregnant or she had a baby, and like she got, I don't know. I'm like, America, what are you doing? It's like, I'm not coming to America. I'm not sending my kid to America to get rugby tackled and then like like American football tackled in the street. She's weird as well. Like, those red pill guys are not gonna like her. It's like, I'm absolutely fucking not. in this economy. Yeah, so no way I would go to America right now. I'm like, maybe when they settle down. There's so many places I'd love to go to in America, but not at the moment. Like, sort out your side of the fence, America. Stop bullying the rest of the world. What are you doing? Miami. And I don't think I would ever go to Florida. I've seen too many Florida man memes. Again, maybe you live in Florida, maybe you're like, this is my home. It's weird, but we love it. That's great. Different strokes for different folks. I'm gonna stay where I am for now. There's so many places I could travel to in the world that, like, I could probably think about 100 places that I would rather travel to than America right now. I think in my last reading I was like, where my American friends come here, and then here's just as bad in a lot of ways. Miami by Will Smith. Big Willie style. South Beach, bringing the heat. Oh, I can probably sing this. I can probably sing the whole. I could probably rap the whole thing, but I won't do that to you. Welcome to Miami. Somebody's going to Miami. You could give me a beach house in Miami, and I would be like, no, thank you. I will sell it. I will sell it, and I will buy a nice little English cottage that looks like a penis. Thank you. No, thank you very much. Right, okay. I want another song. Please explain. Why are we getting Miami by Will Smith? Honey, are you coming? Main skin. No, I am not. I'm gonna stay right where I am. Honey, are you coming? Let me just Google the lyrics. Honey. Meet me there where it never closes. Meet me there where it's never hopeless. All is fair in love. Honey, are you coming? I know a place downtown, babe, if you want to go. Oh, King of Fire, learn your fucking lessons. No, thank you. We're good. I know this place downtown, babe, if you want to go. I'm going to show you how this Italian amour is going to love you harder than ever before. You will take it. You will like it. Sorry. And when we're going to get sky high. Oh, this guy, I think we love him for who he is, but that doesn't mean we want to go to the club with him or be in a relationship with him, right, girlies? We're gonna go sky high and create a new world where somebody might die but nobody gets hurt. And if it sounds good to you, but I love Main Skin, by the way, like, this song absolutely rocks, but it's not a lifestyle I want to live. It's 5 a.m. We feel so good, it's almost frightening. I'm made for you. We can't deny it. Baby, before I found this place, I was feeling so blue. Again, blue John, blue office. But then it turned me out. Let it do it to you. It's not a one-night stand if it turns into two. Nah, not. Again, I don't judge people for their choices. People lead the lifestyle that they want to lead. People have a lot of fun out there. But that doesn't mean that lifestyle is in alignment with me. I don't have to condone it or want that for myself or you, viewer. But if you're going to Miami and having some one-night stands, use protection, because I definitely was getting something about. I was actually getting something about HIV. So take proper precautions, stay safe out there, and yeah, if you can't be good, be careful, I guess. Yeah, but I think I'll miss that flight to Miami. Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, I'm gonna go take care of your faces, and I will see you again when more messages come through. Bye. I always have these little add-ons. So a couple of cards that I forgot to show you. These cards fell off the table when I was doing the reading. So prayer, make of that what you will. I don't know. But then I had these cards. So it's like the message that came through for it, because with wisdom it's like she was reaching up and trying to reach for this thing, but then the star was in the reverse. So it's almost like with prayer as well, it's kind of like the wisdom isn't coming from the heavens, the wisdom isn't coming from the stars. It's kind of like she already has the wisdom, is the way it was coming through. With the songs that came through as well, with like Will Smith going to Miami and that party lifestyle, especially anything to do with like celebrity lifestyle. The advice that I've been getting is that it's not good. I'm definitely getting more of a kind of like stay out of the spotlight energy, stay out, don't chase fame. Especially this was a message to the King of Fire, because the King of Fire can like to show off. He can really enjoy the spotlight. Not necessarily, again, it's not, we're complicated people, but just Leo energy in itself. It's been a few weeks since I've been getting these messages, and it's felt like there's been some progression. So the original message that I got was that this King of Fire, again, it has been probably about a month. I was getting the energy of a guy who, the message was coming through like, don't do the fame thing. Like, if there's any kind of opportunity to do anything with Hollywood, or if there's any opportunity to I don't know, be in a movie or have a TV show, or to go the fame route in any kind of way, even if it was just associating with a celebrity lifestyle, like the advice was like, don't do it. And I almost did a reading on it, but then I was kind of stopped, and it was kind of like, people need to learn their own lessons, was the way it came through. It's almost like letting someone have a very long leash is the way it felt with the universe, or like taking someone off the leash, and being like, it's kind of like the universe is like, I gave this person good advice, let's see if they take it, and this person made the wrong decision, is the way it came through. And that's when I started seeing like 10 of Swords constantly. It was like I just kept seeing 10 of Swords, and it's like I kind of felt like this guy had gone the fame route, but then in going into that lifestyle, it's kind of like, then comes the drugs, right? And then comes the women, or the promiscuous lifestyle, and it felt like sex, drugs and rock and roll kind of thing, which felt very, very fun, like, but this person felt completely off the rails, like, and I was sad because I was kind of like, I was warned about this, like, and I was gonna do a reading on it, but it's like the universe was saying to me, no, you have to let this happen. It was like, you have to take a step back, and you have to let people make their own choices without any kind of advice or involvement, because they have to know that they did that themselves, right? They have to know that they're the one that made that choice, and that it's kind of like, sometimes if somebody's particularly rebellious, what's that disorder that's like oppositional defiance disorder? It's kind of like, if you tell them not to do it, they'll do it. So if you don't say anything at all and they do it, they can't blame you for it. Like, it was entirely their own decision. So yeah, I was like, it's really sad, because you want to protect people from things. And again, I don't know this person, I don't know who this person is, but just as an energy that came through, I felt really bad, because I was like, it's kind of like, if this is a viewer, to me it feels like I lost one. Like, I didn't save that person, I didn't help that person through the readings. But again, it's kind of like, sometimes things have to happen for people to have their own realizations, I guess. So yeah, this star in reverse is like, and especially with Miami, I want to say, if you're the female in this reading, and it's kind of like, you've got somebody who's like rich and famous coming towards you, and like, I will buy you a house, I will put you up in a house, like, I would say the reading is a big fat no. I'd say it's quite clear to me that there's no wisdom here. You can't learn anything from this person. Like, everything you need, the girl's so good on her own, And like, yeah, it'd be great to have a safety net. It'd be great to have a house, right? It'd be great to have passion and romance and lovely things in your life, but you don't need it. And honestly, this feels like a lot more trouble than it's worth. I don't know. I wish I could say otherwise, but just be very careful. If somebody comes to you with an opportunity that feels too good to be true, there's a good chance it is. And that's what I'm going to say. Okay. And it doesn't mean you have to kick this person in the balls and say you want nothing to do with them. You can just have your boundaries up. You can just be like, I'd love to work with you, but I'm not coming to Miami, you know, something like that. I would love to work with you, but I'm not relocating. Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to go. Take care. Bye.